Hey y'all, this is Colby R. Rice, and this is episode number 117 of the epic fantastical journey of a Black female sci fi writer. And I'm actually coming on today with like a slightly different, longer task and task? Tag. Like what? What am I even talking about? Hello, wake up, Colby. So I'm re-entering the world now as like not just a novelist, not just a screenwriter, not just a TV writer, but like we doing painting now, we're doing music now, we're doing coffee and tea parties now, we're doing filmmaking now, we're doing outdoorsy, fun, adventurous stuff now. We're doing fashion design now. We're doing business, but like I'm just all the things. And I'm just gonna pre-warn you guys before you even jump into this podcast, this blog, etc., that this is my thoughts are kind of scattered all over the place. I've also been recording this blog over the course of several days as I have time to sit down and do it, and it's a little bit rambly. So forgive me in advance. This time, not even this time actually. I was going to say this time last year, but actually of April of last year, I was listing out a whole bunch of things that I wanted to do and accomplish by the end of 2023. So unfortunately, I per usual, was not able to do all of those things because my 2023 did not go the way that I thought it would go. So after I ended the year as a dean at my school in around June 2023. And I still actually, because I looked at my past podcasts to see what my goals were and what my mindset was and the track I was on. And I was able to actually complete quite a few goals, but not all of my goals. I will say, though, as a dean, in terms of finishing up that year, I actually finished the year meeting, I would say, 3 out of the 5 goals that I wanted to meet. We ended up successfully launching and maintaining the school store, which was a draw of much joy for the kids and myself. Um, I also was able to end the year pretty strongly with my enrichment team, at least those who wanted to really engage and grow. I felt like we did a lot of growth towards the end of the year. And then I had officially, and at that point, gotten my first official year of deaning under my belt, and it was very educational. And so I was able to launch my summer with the perspective that like I worked really, really hard for 22, 23. And now it was time to really kick back and relax. So in my last podcast from a year and a half ago, I talked about how I was going to get my passport and I was going to go on all these vacations. That actually did happen. It was pretty amazing, very rejuvenating. I really enjoyed myself. We went to Atlantis in the Bahamas, where I was able to like really relax and enjoy the island. But I think my favorite part of my vacation was the cruise. And prior to that, I wasn't a huge cruiser, but more recently, I've gotten really, really into cruising because you pay one price and then that's pretty much it. Like you're set for the rest of the vacation. And I really like that. I like knowing what my expenses are going to be prior to going on some kind of excursion. Um, and go on excursions I did. So we did go on a cruise to not the Bahamas, to several Caribbean islands, and they were amazing. My favorite was Amber Cove. We had a great time. The beaches were just gorgeous. The weather was gorgeous. The water gorgeous. And we went on a whole lot of excursions. We went on back road buggy riding, so it was really muddy, and we were able to drive like not an ATV, but an open air buggy through the backwoods, through the kind of the foliage of the Dominican Republic, and that was really fun. We went on a catamaran party boat, which was really great and fun. We did horseback riding by land and by sea, and then I rediscovered, not even rediscovered, excuse me, I newly discovered a brand new passion of mine, which is kayaking. Had never been kayaking before, had never tried it, did it over the summer and I literally fell in love. So now every single opportunity that I have, whenever I go on vacation, I'm always going to, engage in kayaking. I also want to get into more kayaking here in New York. But to be honest, I do not want to kayak on these nasty rivers. The Hudson River, ugh. So I tend to kind of wait until I'm in, cleaner waters, nicer nature. So one push for this year, I think, a gentle push, is going to be me doing a little bit more of like outdoorsy kayaking and camping and stuff like that. We'll see how that goes though, because the year's half over and I haven't done any of that. But it is summertime, so um, when I got back though to my deaning, my full-time job in late 2023, I mean, I came back rejuvenated, fresh, just like literally glowing with also like a delicious darker tan. And I kicked off that next year of deaning, being fall 2023 to spring 2024, with a lot of energy. And I did come back with a fully fledged plan of attack and a foundation upon which we could improve and continue to maintain our school culture, which that was another goal in my last podcast that I talked about when it came to being an educator. So I was able to meet that goal as well. What happened though in 2023 was that, unfortunately, due to the extreme stress that came from me working so much and from me not only fulfilling my roles as a dean, but also having to fulfill two other separate roles as a science teacher and the SEL coordinator, because those individuals had either departed or they had gone on leave. I was so overwhelmed that I ended up getting very, very physically sick. And so the last quarter of October 2023, honestly, was, I mean, I would say ravaged by health concerns and health issues, which thankfully, as of literally a few weeks ago, all of those have been officially resolved. I am in a much better place. But it was a scary time. I had been dealing with some really serious health complications from October 2023 till about end of April, mid May of this year, where they finally essentially ended up resolving themselves. And just to be more specific, the complications I was dealing with had to do with um, what the doctors thought at first was cardiomyopathy, which is basically it's the heart not working the way that it should be working, right? And it came out of nowhere, and nobody really understood where it came from. And it wasn't as nearly as serious as like any other cardiomyopathic conditions could have been, and it was relatively mild, but it was still a cause of concern. I was having some weird panic episodes, seizure like episodes, cardiac like episodes. And a lot of the results were coming back like really great and pristine, like, good results. But then when they actually started doing imagery of my heart, they saw that it wasn't pumping the way that it was supposed to, and that my ejection fraction, basically how much blood is pumped out of my heart, was not normal. It was actually, they called it low normal, but it was at 47%, which is not low normal. That's actually mildly reduced. Your ejection fraction is supposed to be at least 50 to 55%. So, having said that, even though like everything else was coming back fine, I had to go through a series of tests over a period of 9 months, essentially, while also dealing with these random cardiac episodes that felt like heart attacks, essentially. At the end of it, though, and as of recently, basically, I got diagnosed with abnormal heart function in mid January of this year, after having gone through all of those situations and symptoms and episodes since last October. Excuse me. And they were watching and basically like monitoring me. I was going in for more testing. But with each major test I got, they saw that things were looking really good and or improving. And as of late May, early June of this year, Everything, all of my results finally came back completely normal. Heart is pumping not only normally, but like better than normal, right? And essentially, I had to come to the conclusion that it was stress that was really affecting my body because nothing else was wrong. Blood work was great. They also tested me neurologically to make sure I wasn't having seizures. That came back normal. Every other function, all the tests that I went through, I was in and out of the hospital and the doctor's offices for like 9 months straight. All the tests were coming back great, great, great. But my heart condition kept improving, kind of self improving. And that directly coincided with me, unfortunately, having to leave my job as a dean in this past January and changing over to a new job, which focuses more on project management. I'm currently now an instructional designer for a corporation, and it focuses on project management and it's also very flexible. It's also hybrid. So it gave me an opportunity to sleep more, to take care of myself more, exercise more, cook at home a little bit more, not all the time, but, more, just do more self-care, healthcare related things. And I also was able to go to the doctor the way I needed to without having to worry about taking days off. And it made a world of difference. And I was sad to ultimately have left my job as a dean because I essentially was leaving like a family of children and a smaller family of staff members that I really loved and appreciated. And frankly, like the people that I'm really tight with, the adults rather, from my school, from that old school, we're still tight. Like I still have their numbers. We still talk. We're still planning to hang out, things of that nature. The children, I'm able to see, or I was able to see, because I had to drop my daughter off at that school because she still attended the school even though I wasn't working there. Um, all of those relationships, though, were not able to salvage my body from suffering under the weight of the stress that I had to endure by being not only the dean of culture, the dean of enrichment, but then also a fully fledged science teacher and then the social emotional learning coordinator, essentially. And having to do all of the things like maintain the store at the school, and do like create advisory programming and all these other things in addition to the full-time job of being a dean of culture. It was just a lot, and I wasn't able to properly balance out my work life with my home life with self-care, and ultimately it really affected my health because the only thing I really changed in this past 9 months was my job. And that seemed to be the variable to help fix the problem. And my mom has said to me several times over this very scary time in my life that when the mind suffers, the body cries out. And that is something that I have been reflecting on so much as someone who works full time, but who also enjoys creating, who enjoys writing, novel writing, screenwriting, TV writing. I have really been reflecting on how actively to best take care of myself and my health and my mental and emotional health, being that stress was the primary factor to literally cause me to be on the journey to cardiomyopathy. I don't know how to make you guys understand how powerful that is, that stress can cause such an insane chronic condition. And if you've been in my position where you've had stress be directly related to your chronic illnesses, please hit me back, hit the comments below. Not many of you guys watch my videos or vlogs. I'm not really out there like a YouTuber or anything like that, which is fine. But for those of you who do watch this, who can relate in the comments, relate to me in my email. There are so many conditions that are affected by stress. Chronic conditions like lupus, autoimmune diseases are like, I won't say that they're entirely based on stress, obviously, but like a high level of stress can really kick off, the symptoms and the pathologies of a lot of autoimmune disease and a lot of other disease, most disease. And by reducing stress, we are taking care of ourselves. So I just want to impress upon you guys, if you guys are watching this, please, please, please take care of yourselves. Do not kill yourselves over a job. When I say that this job literally almost killed me, I'm not even joking. I'm not playing. And this is not a critique actually on the job itself. Like, I have to also recognize too that, I was relatively new to the position. I was making it do what it do with what I had. And I'm sure there are better ways that I could have been more efficient. But at the same time, I did have to fulfill several job roles at once, and that was just impossible for me to do. And I should have advocated for myself, a lot more. But my ultimate advocacy was me having to withdraw and find a job that was more suitable to my current delicate faculties. So, and this is not to say that my new job isn't doesn't come with its own challenges. Like, when you go into something relatively new in a different space, you're always going to have different challenges to overcome, but it definitely is a much better fit for me as a person, for my health concerns, and then also for the mindset that I'm going to be basically engaging in for the next 10 years and beyond. So, having said that, let's jump into it, because that particular mindset that I'm talking about is called gentle creativity, or gently creating, gentle and joyous living and creating. What is it? For me, it's basically about taking my time, and if it doesn't feel gentle on my psyche, on my emotional well-being, on my body, and if it doesn't feel joyous in my psyche, in my emotional well-being, and for my body, I'm not doing it. Gentle creation, in my opinion, is creation that comes without stress, without drama, and especially without obligation. I think that as I've been reflecting on a lot of my personal reasons for going through issues of writer's block and creator's block and just feeling blocked, is because there's just too much pressure, especially nowadays, to try to make your art like your income, and to validate your art, and to center your art in terms of making it the end all and be all of all things. And there was a point at which I really was very dedicated to becoming a full time writer, full time author, full time screenwriter, and all these things. And then I woke up one day and I was just like, is this still fun? Is this something that brings me joy? Is this something that I love to do and that fulfills me and nourishes me and fills my cup? And when the answer started to be no, of course, amongst all the other things that were happening, like life was lifing, the job was jobbing, etc., I also stopped getting joy from my art. Not because it wasn't fun to write or fun to do all the other things that I love to do, which are going to come up soon, but because everything kind of had a timestamp attached to it, or a ticking clock, so to speak. Everything had a ticking clock and a price tag. And I think that to a certain degree, that becomes the default when you're living in a hyper capitalist society. And as a side note, this is not going to be a geopolitical, socioeconomic podcast about, capitalism or how it's evil or how it, you know what I'm saying? We're not going to go there today. And I also have like very nuanced thoughts about the systems of capitalism. But we do have to acknowledge the fact that we do live in a capitalist society. And when you are cultivated in that society, you tend to take on a lot of the mores and expectations, priorities, and goals of that society. And for us, everything has to be productive, everything has to make money, everything has to be, quote, worth our time. And I think when I was like hardcore girl bossing, right, from like, my early 20s until like my mid 30s, that was fine. That was okay. Like I had the energy to do that. And it was exciting, opening, three different businesses and dabbling here and dabbling there. And like, that's actually still exciting. But there was a point at which and I think this happened around 2022, where I just had to take a step back and say, slow down a bit, you know? And I think I did a great job in most of my life, especially after the pandemic, wherein, you know, I wrote my behind off in the pandemic. And, because, you just didn't really know how much time we had. We didn't really know what was coming next. It was also the first time I had in like a few years, like actual time to sit and think and reflect and write. And then I did that from 2020 all the way up until like the end of 2021. So like 2 years of just straight grinding and being productive, at least on the screenwriting side of my life. Um, and then in 2022, I was just like, yeah, like this is the year kind of just like slow down a little bit and enjoy the fruits of labor and just enjoy life. And for the entirety of 2022, I didn't really do anything except decorate my apartment, read, listen to audiobooks, had tea parties with my child, cooked a lot, baked a lot, made my apartment the cozy, feminine, homey home that I wanted it to be, and also traveling. I spent a lot of time really pouring back into myself and just slowing down and stopping the output, stopping the doing, and I just started being. And to a certain extent, that became very addictive. And I didn't write pretty much the entirety of that year. I started writing again a little bit more in the middle of 2023. Basically, like from mid 2023 to the end of 2023, I wrote more. But I still didn't return to that original state of productivity. And I'm finding myself, after again having become sick in 2023, specifically from job stress, I'm finding myself challenged to go back to that original level of productivity. And it's probably because I'm older, for one. As you get older, you have less energy. I'm a mother, so that takes a lot of my time. I also have to pay bills and do work. And I have been, I guess, on a journey to recenter myself because art is still very important to me. Leisure, like leisure and pleasure, are still very important to me. Creativity is still very important to me. Matter of fact, you can probably see in the background here that there's like a kind of pinkish bag in that chair. That's my art bag that has all of my drawing materials. It has my painting materials. I've had this painting that I've been working on for a bajillion years, but it's a little dusty. It was super dusty, right? It's color by numbers. It's not anything to write home about in terms of like talent, but it's still something that I really enjoy doing. I think the era that I'm frankly in right now, especially because my birthday just passed a few days ago and I had a lot of time, thankfully, to really reflect and think about what it is I truly want in this life, and just gave me an opportunity to reevaluate a lot of things. And I'm happy with the progress I've made thus far. I look back on my journey, and there are a couple of things that I probably would do a little bit differently. But for the most part, I'm really happy with where I am. I think I made some pretty good choices, even when I made mistakes. Having said that, where I'm at right now, today, July 4th, happy Independence Day, by the way, I am really just in the mode of one, compartmentalization, and two, just doing the things that I enjoy. And to a certain degree, I know that sounds a little bit hedonist, but it's not as hedonist as you might think, right? Like if my body says, for example, you need a nap, I'm going to go take that nap. Pretty much to the detriment, or I guess the betterment, depending on how you look at it, of anything and anyone else. And I'm able to kind of claim that time for myself finally after years and years. Because when you're a mom, you're pretty much on call, on deck all the time. But things like that, If I want to take a nap or I need to take a nap, that's what I'm going to do. If I need to go to bed early or late or want to stay up early or late, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do. If I want an iced coffee, I'm going to go get one. If I don't feel like doing insert thing here, I'm not going to do it. And that's not to say that life from here on in is not going to be about accountability, but I think it's going to be a lot more about being present and living in the moment, enjoying the moment, doing the things that I actually want to do. And when things start to feel too complicated or too hard, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to not do it. And, it's my life. And that's how that's what I consider to be the gentle approach to my life after going hard on every single thing. I've been a high achiever my entire life. Have always been on my grind. Have always been a good student. Always been a great worker. Have always tried to innovate everywhere I go. Have always been pushing and raising the bar on my own achievement and intelligence and the things that I put out into the world. And it's always been go, 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 do, do, do. And it's time for me to slow down. Honestly, it is. I feel the call of nature. Like I want to do more gentle hikes. I want to spend more time in reflection. I want to spend more time journaling. I want to spend more time with art and creativity that has no end goal, but just existing and being. Like today, it's Independence Day. Again, happy Independence Day. I'm going to go out and barbecue some food. And then for the rest of the day, I'm going to probably play some Assassin's Creed. Probably read, the next few chapters in Tracy Wolf's Crush. Great series, by the way. And y'all know I'm a hardcore action sci-fi junkie. I'm not really into like vampire teen romance, but like I decided to try something new. And I loved her first book. Wait, you guys probably can't see it too clearly, but in the upper right corner, right here of my screen, my fingers kind of hovering next to it. Um, she wrote a first book called Crave, which like it gripped me because the voice was just so funny and like so fresh, and the story was like a typical. There were parts where I like rolled my eyes or whatever, but the story was great. I really enjoyed, and now I'm diving into this, right? Probably gonna paint a little bit later today if I can. I'm also getting back into fashion design. Finally, I have been trying to make time to really use my sewing machine and my pattern making book, and I have all these gorgeous patterns. Um, and I don't necessarily have unused fabric, but like I'm gonna keep it bed sheet bougie just so I can practice. I'm gonna use old bed sheets that nobody is using anymore, just so I can practice making pieces and like teach myself the art and creativity of fashion design, which I picked up in like 2006 to 2008 or so. And I haven't been able to come back to it consistently, even though I've been steadily investing in fashion design materials. So I have an entire sewing desk. I have a sewing machine. I had a dress form, but I had to sell it. I have like all these books. I have I have everything that I need to like to do what I need to do in terms of like a beginner sewer and beginner fashion designer. And now I'm finally making time for that. Um, this is gonna sound really weird, and I'm just looking to the side of my screen here because I'm looking at my coffee cabinet, my tea. I have like a whole gorgeous coffee, tea, and wine rack over here that I'm also gonna be indulging in. Like for me, like tea and coffee is an event now, if that makes sense. Like, having like a delicious cookie or a delicious couple of cookies with like a really yummy chai tea. I do yellow chai, masala yellow chai is very good. Or having an iced coffee with, an apple cider donut, which should be available all year round. That's just my perspective. Like that to me is a creative moment and a creative event that nourishes my soul. And I'm going to enjoy that. Gaming. Um, I also have a great keyboard as well as an acoustic guitar and electric guitar that have also been in and out of my life since I started grad school in what year was that? 2009. So like music has been a part of my kind of circle that I've been kind of dipping in and out of. And it was like in 2009, 2010, I actually taught myself how to play Fur Elise. I taught myself how to play Moonlight Sonata, and I could play it without sheet music. I used to take guitar when I was in middle school. I want to learn how to like shred on an electric guitar. So there's just like a lot of things that I want to explore, and a lot of things that I want to do. Simple things too that don't require anything except like imagining. I also want to get back into film editing. That's something that I actually am pretty decent at. And I would be excellent if I were to, practice it more and stick with it more and like just, make sure I become one with the tools. But I'm jumping back into film editing. I recently kind of reopened a couple of courses that I signed up for and downloaded. I have an entire suite. I have the Adobe Premiere suite. I also have DaVinci. What else? I have one more film editing tool somewhere on this computer. My computer is crying for mercy at this point. But definitely getting back into film editing. I'm going to, crossing my fingers, try to take my first crack at shooting a short film this year. Not because I necessarily ultimately want to shoot short film like as a medium, but it is the first tiny step into me directing my first feature and or my first TV series, which for me, directing an indie sci-fi or dystopian or thriller TV series would be phenomenal. And that is something that I do still feel the fire in my gut about. All these things that I want to do: music, guitar, piano, reading, painting, drawing, tea time. Tea time is an activity. Filmmaking, film editing, writing novels, writing screenplays, writing, TV scripts, fashion design, recultivating my businesses. Like I have Rebel Ragdoll Press, I have Rebel Ragdoll Fashion, I have the Bohemian Badass, but I have all these other brands and labels too that, I'm not going to roll out to you guys now, but that I want to build and create. Like I was born to be a creator. I don't necessarily know exactly what my ultimate path is going to be, but I do know that I'm meant to develop a media empire of some sort. But the approach that I'm taking now is to keep flowing in the direction that my gut, my intuition, or I call this the divine, the universe, that God is taking me, and not put pressure on myself. And that's where the gentleness and delicacy and gentility of creativity comes into play. Being creative shouldn't be painful. It shouldn't be torturous. I mean, there are going to be times of torture, obviously, that's a part of being an artist, but it shouldn't be 100% of your experience. And I think for a long time, with me trying to write and meet all these deadlines, and recently, like trying to meet a client's expectations and just doing all these things to meet certain standards, that doesn't turn me on and light my fires anymore. I just want to create just for the sake of creating. And the final conclusion for me on that is that anything that I do going forward is going to be slow and steady, gentle, loving. And so when I think about gentle creativity, I think about no pressure. I think about the process as opposed to the product. I think about the enjoyment as opposed to, the enjoyment as opposed to pride, you know? Not that you can't be proud of the things that you accomplish along the way. Like when I designed my first collection, I'm gonna be proud of that. Like you guys are gonna see that on this channel. But I'm not designing the collection so I can achieve the feeling of pride from what I do. It's not about achievement. It's about just enjoying doing something that I like. And if you're somebody who actually does live from or get fueled by or get validated by achievement, there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to make it clear. I don't think that there's anything wrong with being achievement and goal driven. I was there. I loved it. I love that for you. I have my own goals. They're not as hot on my back as they used to be, but I do have goals still, you know? I just also realize that sometimes when you focus too much on the end result, you look back on your journey and you don't really remember how you got there, and you tend to be pretty exhausted from how fast and how hard you ran. And if that end goal is not giving you the nourishment that you seek, it's going to feel a little disappointing, you know? So, this is not a rant against goals at all. It's just more of a balanced approach to life. That goals are important, metrics and end results are definitely important when they're important. They're not important all the time, and they're not necessary all the time, you know. And the process is something that should be savored and enjoyed, because that's really ultimately all we have in our lives and all we can control in our lives. Like with reading this book, you know, I have a goal. I would love to read 50 books this year. I wanted to put that as a goal on my Goodreads reading challenge. But why? Like, why do I have to do that? And do you see, once again, I'm going to keep pointing to all these books here. I have Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses, I think it's called. I know that some of you Maas fans are like probably wanting to burn me at the stake right now for not knowing her stuff by heart. But I have that book. I have a gorgeous, amazing Black Mermaid series I'm about to start. Not right now, but sometime soon. I have the Shatter Me series on that wall behind me. I have an independently written historical rewrites of like the Roman Empire, but like that features a female African warrior that's like fire. Like it just gripped me. So I bought all three of his books. I think his name is Rhett Jones or something like that. I'll put all the stuff in the comments below. Great series. But I have so many books on my list that I want to read, and trying to knock them all off as quickly as possible for me just kind of kills the joy of it, you know? So I'm just going to take it one day at a time and enjoy, and not put extra stress and pressure on something that should be an enjoyable, gentle experience. So, having said that, that is where I'm headed for the rest of 2024, and frankly, for the rest of my life. In terms of doing goals and creative achievements and stuff like that, um, it's interesting because it's like a part of me still wants to have those goals and those metrics. And you guys know, like years ago on the podcast, when I had like weekly updates, monthly updates, and quarterly updates, I was all about that life. But this year, I couldn't bring myself to sit down and even make a achievements list. The list that I have this year, actually, um, let me actually just read it off. It's not really an achievement list. This is a, now this is interesting. I have a love dump list. I have a duty dump list. And I have a fear dump list. And then I have a goal dump list. So this is not the typical goal list. This is what would, like, for example, for the love dump, I asked myself the question of what would I love to do this year? And I just made a whole running list of things that naturally lit me up, that I was excited about, that you did not have to drag me out of bed for, right? Then the next list was, as I said, the duty dump list. What do I feel I should do this year? And how can I make these joyful? Right? So this is where it comes to my accountability and basic responsibilities as like a human being, somebody who has to like pay bills and somebody who has to be a mother, right? So, and please do not judge me about the fact that I put those three things on my duty dump list. This is just me acknowledging that I have responsibilities, and like literally not every single thing in life can be about what I love to do. But this section was about me being honest about what my actual responsibilities are. But for those responsibilities that feel like they can be hard or a chore, how can I make these joyful? Was the important part of the question, right? So I actually have already achieved half of these goals on my duty dump list. And for the love dump list, I completed about maybe a sixth of those goals. So obviously, I need to do more things I love to do. Then there's a fear dump list. And one of those fears on this list, hilariously enough, I'm just looking at this again after having put it together in January. One of my fears was doing anything too strenuous and too stressful, which like obviously is still the vibe. And it's funny that I started off the year feeling that way, because apparently like that's the theme for this year, is like leisure and pleasure. That's my theme. And then I do have a goal dump list, and that is what goals would be nice to achieve this year. What goals would I want to achieve if they didn't stress me the F out and feel like work? Again, going with the theme of this year. So on that goals list are writing and publishing the next two novels in the Books of Ezekiel series. That's Fraternity and Hollow Point, which I've been working on for forever. Writing and publishing the first trilogy in the Sodom Asylum series, which, great news, I've actually been working on that all year. Not actually writing the manuscript, unfortunately, but I have been working on the entire world building, the development, plot, character development, um, a lot of world building, a lot of how do I turn the questions and themes I'm trying to talk about and ask about into living characters, things of that nature. So I've also worked a little bit on the Books of Ezekiel series, but these past 6 months have mostly been me developing and building up the Asylum Sodom world. Completely planning out all 5 books of the Sons of Exodus series. I've been working on the Sons of Exodus as well. Again, slowly but surely. Finishing the When in Rome screenplay for my manager. That's still in the wind. But it's still good. Like, I'm looking over what I've written thus far, and I just need to push myself to the extra mile. Finish building out every single episode in the When in Rome series. That's going to be a longer term project using the templates I've developed for Sons of Exodus, the Asylum series, and the Books of Ezekiel series. But yes, I do enjoy doing that in my spare time. Launching the Bohemian Badass coaching business and online university. Yes. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to add to this list. I would love to gently launch that this year if possible. I also want to launch Rebel Ragdoll Fashion and Nisha Renee, we'll get to what that is later down the line when it actually becomes a thing. And I want to continue pushing forward Rebel Ragdoll Press. I want to do more giveaways. That's my favorite form of readership development, is doing giveaways. I realize that gift giving is one of the ways that I show love. I really enjoy it. And then to continue to develop and evolve my skills in my current day job. Because I do feel like there's a big part of that is very creative and also technical. And there's always something new to learn. And I want to keep growing and learning all the time in all areas of life. So yeah, that's my love dump, duty dump, goal dump, and fear dump. And so I kind of have moved away from trying to establish hardcore goals and deadlines, as I said before, and I'm just going with what's on my spirit, right? In terms of things that I want to do. And this was really more of a self-truth telling exercise this year, figuring out why I felt the way I felt in the midst of all of my health issues, trying to figure all of that out, and also figure out a way forward that really jive with where I am spiritually, emotionally, mentally, psychologically. And right now, I'm still not inclined to set any hardcore goals. I'm gonna go in a couple of minutes, break out the grill, cook between 10 and 12 so I'm done for the day, and then come back and whatever it is I feel like doing, whether it's reading this book, whether it's watching fashion design videos and cutting out this really sexy pattern I have, whether it's painting or doing art, whether it's just sitting down with a tea, like I'm just going to decide what it is I'm going to do right now. And I realize that not every single day can be like that, but I'm striving to make my day like that as much as possible. My day is mostly like that as much as possible because we only really have one life to live, and it has to be the life that you want to live. It has to be the life that fulfills you. And again, as you can tell by my energy, I'm very much in like relax, go with the flow, chill, guru mode, I guess. I'm not a guru really, but like that's kind of the vibe I'm on right now. And anything that stresses me out, any people that stress me out, any situation that stress me out, I immediately walk away if I can, detach and block if I can, or minimize my presence as much as possible. Because sometimes you are in situations where you can't necessarily get out of the chaos, but you can minimize how much the chaos affects you. That is a two-way relationship. The individuals or the situation that's causing the chaos and how you react to it is a two-way relationship. And I can only control one part of it, and I'm definitely going to control that part of it for me. So, having said that, y'all, this is my very rambly, sorry about that, creative update. There's not really much that has gotten done officially, but I have been working on developing a lot of the plot and world of my series, which I do want to prioritize going forward. I am finishing up some work for a client, and then I am just living my life and taking it one day at a time. And also, one thing that I almost forgot to mention, one major achievement was that on a whim, I did submit my pitch for When in Rome to the ROCABERTI's Writers Retreat, where you get to spend a week or so in a European castle, either in Italy, France, or Spain, and basically connect with a Hollywood producer or screenwriter or filmmaker to develop your work. And I just submitted my stuff on a whim, saying, hey, why not? Because they were offering scholarships. And team, I won a scholarship and I'm super excited. It's going to be fully paid for. I'm so excited. More than likely, I think I'm going to be in the Spain location. And they're going to put me on the 2026 round of scholarship winners because like everything for 2025 is and 2024 is booked up already. So it's going to be 2026. I'm super excited. And more than likely, it's going to turn into a couple weeks vacation over there. I'm going to pop over to the UK and meet my manager face to face for the first time. So that's going to be like a really great time. So, again, that came with me just following my gut, my intuition, but not stressing out too much about it and moving forward with that. I also put in for the writer's block at Comic Con, New York Comic Con for this October. And I would like to ideally get another book in the Books of Ezekiel published or even both published before Comic Con. That would be a great goal to meet. But if not, that's okay. I still have 4 to 5 other novels I can go and present if I were to get it. And we'll see what happens if I get accepted to writer's block. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, I'll be there probably as a participant for a day or two. I'm just kind of going with the flow. So I'm going to cut this off. I've been rambling for way too long. I really just want you guys to take care of yourselves, take care of your creativity. Try not to, this is just my advice, take it or leave it. I'm not a guru, but try to not put too much stress, financial stress, and emotional stress on your art. When we do that as artists, when we try to capitalize on our art or make that the central money making foundation of our lives, it becomes a lot less creative. The process, it becomes more transactional. And if you're cool with that, great. Like if you don't care and you're delighted to have like maybe those pressures on you, or if it's not pressure for you and it works well for you, great. This advice is not for you. For the rest of y'all, just go get a day job that keeps you steady, that you can pay bills with, that is flexible so that you can really float into your art making with your soul being a lot lighter, because the pressure of living and surviving is not solely on the head of how much you produce as an artist or how, quote, good or marketable your art is. Because ultimately, when we start trying to depend on our art for our income, that means we have to depend on people's opinion of our art and people's attraction to our art as a part of our income streams. And in certain ways, those expectations can really degrade the process or the experience for you as an artist. So that's my advice. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, so this is Colby R. Rice. I am signing off. I will be posting a vlog, probably next Friday, the latest, because I'm actually going to Alaska next Saturday. I'm really excited. It's going to be a cruise. We're going to Alaska and Canada, and it's going to be like our first trek into the Alaska wilderness. Within reason. I know people who are listening to this who actually have been in the wilderness are like, sis, you're going to be on a cruise ship, like, relax. But for me, it's very exotic and very exciting. And Alaska is a bucket list trip, and I'm excited to get out in nature and see the things. So I'll do a pre-Alaska vlog probably next Friday, latest Saturday morning, which I can do more of now that I have become more flexible and I have more energy and I've been sleeping more. So it's been great. So you guys should be hearing from me a little bit more often. And sorry if this post was a little rambly. I warn you in the title, but I hope that you were able to get some nuggets out of it. And I hope that in the meantime, you're going to keep it indie, keep creating, keep writing, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.